The courtroom was too cold for August. The AC buzzed like static, a low-frequency hum that grated against the nerves. Every seat in the gallery was filled with officers, legal staff, and people who had made up their minds about me before I ever said a word. I sat straight, hands flat on the table, listening as the defense attorney painted me as unstable, insubordinate, and emotionally compromised. They made it sound like I cracked under pressure. I was a tech specialist who played soldier, went rogue on a mission, and endangered lives because I couldn't handle the chain of command. Specialist Cross has a history of anxiety, the lawyer said, pacing in front of the panel of judges. She saw ghosts in the machine. She disobeyed a direct order from a superior officer because she felt something was wrong. Feelings are not facts. I let them talk. I let the words build up like smoke in a locked room. Across the aisle, Lieutenant Colonel Morris sat with his arms crossed. He looked confident. Smug, even. He knew the main server logs had been wiped. He knew the surveillance drone footage had been corrupted. He had spent the last 3 months erasing his tracks, and he had done a thorough job. He thought he was watching my funeral. He didn't know that I wasn't there to defend myself. I was there to bury him. My name is Specialist Natalie Cross. I'm a technical operations specialist with 13 years in digital systems surveillance and threat validation. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a politician. I am a professional paranoid. They called me difficult. Said I didn't play well with the team. Maybe that was true. I wasn't hired to play well. I was hired to see what no one else wanted to see. And 48 hours before this hearing, I saw something I was never supposed to see. I acted on it, and I paid for it. But now it's their turn. Let me tell you how it started. 48 hours earlier, the sun was setting behind the Syrian ridgeline, casting everything in gold dust and long, jagged shadows. We were staged outside a known hotspot, a recon op that was supposed to be routine. I was embedded with the Echo team as their systems tech. My job was to keep an eye on drone feeds and comm security. I wasn't boots on the ground. I was the eyes in the sky. Lt. Col Morris walked into the tech tent with that clipped edge in his voice. He was the ranking officer on site, a man who preferred quick results over protocol. "Cross," he barked, "shut down the main comms array. We're running a scheduled diagnostic on the encryption keys." I looked up from my console. "Sir, we have the Echo team in the field. If I cut the array, they lose real-time overwatch." "I'm aware of where my men are, Specialist," Morris snapped. "The diagnostic is mandatory. The window is 12 minutes. Cut it. Now." He gave me the look. The one that said, "Follow the order and don't ask questions." I nodded. "Yes, sir." But my fingers hesitated above the console. It didn't add up. We never ran full blackouts during active surveillance. Not unless we had a backup network running, or we were already compromised. And Morris looked anxious. He was checking his watch. He was sweating, despite the AC in the tent. So I played dumb. "Initiating shutdown," I said, loud enough for him to hear. I typed the command to kill the primary feed. The main screens went black. Morris let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. He walked out of the tent, pulling a satellite phone from his pocket, a non-standard civilian model. He thought the system was dead. But I hadn't killed it. I had routed a ghost relay through the secondary diagnostics port. I wasn't broadcasting, but I was still listening, and more importantly, I was still recording. The blackout window lasted 12 minutes. During that time, Echo Team's coordinates went dark on the main board. But on my hidden diagnostic overlay, a single line of code scrolled by. Signal detected. Frequency, 445,000. That wasn't a military frequency. That was a burner channel. I tuned the ghost relay to that frequency. Through the static, I heard a voice. It wasn't Arabic. It was English, with a heavy accent. "Payment received. The optics are in the truck. Leaving the compound now." Then a second voice replied. A voice I recognized instantly. "Copy. My eyes are shut. You have a 10-minute window. Clear the area before I bring the network back up." It was Morris. My stomach clenched. This wasn't a diagnostic. It was a transaction. Morris wasn't fixing the radios. He was selling thermal imaging optics, advanced U.S. technology, to a broker on the other side of the ridge. He had blinded the team so the enemy could steal our gear. But then the chatter changed. "Wait," the foreign voice said. "Patrol inbound. We are compromised. Taking the shot." My blood froze. Echo Team had turned the corner too early. They were walking straight into the deal. I didn't think. I acted. I keyed a silent override. I couldn't bring the main comms up fast enough to call them on the radio. But Echo Team was wearing the new TacLink wrist pads, wearable tech that synced with my system. I sent a text-based flash alert directly to the team leader's wrist. "Ambush. North wall. 50 meters." I watched the telemetry. The team leader paused. He read the display. He waved the patrol to a hard stop. 3 seconds later, the north wall of the compound exploded outward. An RPG. If they had kept walking, they would have been vaporized. Instead, they were 10 feet back, behind cover. The explosion shook the ground. One soldier caught shrapnel in his leg, but he lived. They all lived. When Morris came running back into the tent, he looked pale. He looked at the black screens. Then he looked at me. "What happened?" he demanded. "I thought the system was down." "It is, sir," I said, my voice steady, my hands shaking under the desk. That sounded like incoming fire. He stared at me. He was calculating. He was trying to figure out if I knew. I didn't flinch. I gave him the confused tech look. He scanned the room, nodded, and walked off. But his silence felt loaded. He knew something had gone wrong. He knew the deal had gone bad. And he knew I was the only one in the room. The reprimand came fast. Before the dust even settled from the ambush, I was called into the command tent. Morris stood there with a printed report in his hand. He didn't shout. He didn't swear. He just told me I had violated protocol by failing to properly secure the network during the diagnostic, which caused a glitch that endangered the team. He was gaslighting me. He was rewriting the narrative before I could even open my mouth. "Your incompetence caused a system lag," Morris said, his eyes cold. "I'm putting a formal reprimand in your file, and I'm pulling your access to the mainframe pending an investigation." He wanted me away from the logs. He wanted time to wipe the servers. I kept my face neutral. "Understood, sir." I walked out with the same steady pace I use when I carry classified drives. It was the only way to keep him from seeing that I was terrified. That night, I stayed in the tech trailer. I knew my access was being revoked in the morning. I had 6 hours. I tried to access the main server logs. They were gone. File corrupted. Morris had used his admin clearance to do a hard wipe, erasing the last 24 hours of data to cover the illegal transaction. He had destroyed the evidence of the radio call. He had destroyed the evidence of the sale. Without those logs, it was my word against a lieutenant colonel, and in the Army, rank always wins. I sat in the dark, the hum of the cooling fans surrounding me. I felt the weight of the injustice pressing down on my chest. He was going to get away with it. He was going to sell weapons to the enemy, almost kill his own men, and then blame me for the chaos. I put my head in my hands. Then I looked at the charging rack in the corner. Sitting there, plugged into the wall, were the TAC-Link wrist pads from Echo Team. The medics had brought them in after the patrol returned. I stared at them. Morris was old school. He understood radios. He understood servers. He knew enough to wipe the main computer, but he didn't understand the Internet of Things. He didn't know that the wrist pads weren't just displays. They were edge nodes. When the main network goes down, the wrist pads switch to local cache mode. They record audio and data locally to upload later when the connection is restored. My heart started to hammer against my ribs. If the team leader was within 100 meters of the compound, and if his microphone was hot, I grabbed the wrist pad. I grabbed a data cable. I didn't upload the data to the server. That would alert Morris. I created an air-gapped archive, copying the raw data directly to a physical hard drive that never touched the network. I watched the progress bar. Downloading, 98%, 99%, complete. I opened the audio file. I put on my headphones. I heard the crunch of boots on gravel. I heard the team leader's breathing. And then, faintly, in the background, captured by the high-gain microphone on the soldier's wrist, I heard Morris's voice over the radio. The optics are clear. Wire the funds. I had him. I pulled the drive. I hid it in the lining of my boot. The next morning, Morris had me escorted out of the Tactical Operations Center. He accused me of being mentally unstable and unfit for duty. He sent me back to the States to face a court-martial for gross negligence and insubordination. He thought he had won. He thought he had erased the world. He forgot about the watch. Back in the courtroom, the defense attorney finished his opening statement. "Specialist Cross is a danger to the unit," he concluded. "She hallucinated a threat and violated a direct order to shut down the system. We ask for a dishonorable discharge." The judge, a stern colonel with gray hair, looked at me. "Specialist Cross," the judge said. "You declined a lawyer. Do you wish to make a statement?" I stood up. My legs felt heavy, but my hands were steady. "Sir," I said, "the defense claims that I disobeyed an order to shut down the system. That is true. I did." A murmur went through the gallery. Morris smiled. He thought I was confessing. "However," I continued, "I disobeyed that order because the order itself was unlawful. The system shutdown was not for a diagnostic. It was a cover-up for a transaction of stolen military technology." "Objection!" the defense attorney shouted. "Speculation! There is no evidence of any transaction. The server logs are corrupted." "The server logs were wiped," I corrected, turning to look at Morris. "By Colonel Morris." Morris scoffed. "You're delusional, specialist. Prove it." I looked at the judge. "Sir, Colonel Morris is correct. The main server is empty, but Colonel Morris is a tactical officer, not a technical one. He forgot that modern warfare is a mesh network." I reached into my pocket. I pulled out the small, sealed hard drive. "The TAC-Link wrist pads worn by Echo Team have a localized cache feature," I said, my voice gaining strength. "When the main network goes down, they automatically record ambient audio and data to preserve mission history." Morris's smile flickered. He shifted in his seat. "I have processed the forensic data from the team leader's wrist pad," I said. "It is authenticated, time-stamped, and checksum verified." I plugged the drive into the presentation laptop on my table. "This is the audio from the moment the system went dark," I said. I hit play. The courtroom filled with the sound of static, then heavy breathing, then clear as a bell. "Payment received? The optics are in the truck." And then Morris's voice, the voice everyone in that room knew. "Copy. My eyes are shut. You have a 10-minute window. The optics are clear. Wire the funds." The silence that followed was absolute. Morris went pale. The color drained from his face so fast he looked like a corpse. His lawyer froze, his mouth half open. I didn't stop there. "This audio," I said, pointing to the visual waveform on the screen, "correlates perfectly with the bank transfer records I flagged in the Colonel's offshore accounts this morning. I took the liberty of forwarding those to the Financial Crimes Division." The judge looked at Morris. The look was terrifying. It wasn't the look of a judge. It was the look of a soldier looking at a traitor. "Colonel Morris," the judge said, his voice low and dangerous, "do you have an explanation for why your voice is on a recording authorizing the sale of sensitive optics to a hostile force?" Morris stammered. It's a deep fake. She faked it. She's a tech specialist." "I am a forensic analyst," I corrected him. "And that drive has a digital chain of custody that started before I was even charged. It's bulletproof." The judge signaled the bailiff. "Court is recessed," the judge ordered. "MPs, secure the defendant." "Which one, sir?" the bailiff asked. The judge pointed a finger at Morris like a weapon. "Colonel Morris, take him into custody. Suspect of treason and trafficking in stolen weapons." The MPs moved fast. They pulled Morris out of his chair. He didn't fight. He looked at me, eyes wide with shock. He couldn't understand how he had lost. He had wiped the server. He had controlled the narrative. He just didn't understand the tech. As they handcuffed him, I watched. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just breathed. The air in the room felt different. The buzz of the AC was gone, replaced by the heavy reality of the truth. 3 months later, I was reassigned. Not as a punishment, but as a promotion. I work for Internal Affairs, Cyber Division now. My office doesn't have windows, but it has something better. It has autonomy. My job isn't to watch the enemy anymore. My job is to watch the watchers. I hunt for the anomalies, the missing logs, the corrupt commands. I was sitting at my desk when a young private knocked on my door. She looked nervous. She was holding a tablet like it were a bomb. "Ma'am?" she whispered. "Come in, Private," I said. She sat down. I have a discrepancy in my unit's supply log. My sergeant says it's a glitch. He told me to delete the duplicate entries." I looked at her. I saw the fear in her eyes, the fear of being wrong, the fear of speaking up against rank. I saw myself. "Did you delete them?" I asked. "No, ma'am, I made a copy." I smiled. It was the first time I had smiled in a long time. "Good," I said. "You're not paranoid, Private. You're prepared." I took the tablet. I plugged it into my system. Let's see what they're trying to hide. They told me to sit down. They told me to follow orders. They wanted me quiet. Instead, I became their audit trail. They thought I would break under the weight of the accusation. But I didn't disappear. I built something stronger. In this world, data is the only truth that matters. And as long as I'm watching, no one deletes the history. If you've ever had to stand alone, if you've ever been told to stop asking questions, keep the receipts. Because the truth always leaves a digital footprint. You just have to know where to look.